On the 12th of November 2020, this club became champions of China for the first time in its history. They beat the 8-time champions to do it. The owners were one of the biggest retail companies in the country, the same people who owned Inter Milan. They'd outbid Liverpool for a striker, hired a World Cup winning manager, and they even tried to sign Gareth Bale. 108 days later, the club didn't exist. Not relegated, not taken over, just gone. The men's team, women's team, every youth team, all of it, shut down in a single announcement on a Sunday afternoon. I think it's the most incredible story in modern Asian football, and I believe most of the people outside of China have never heard it. So today we are going to work out how a club wins its national league and disappears before it can defend the title. To understand the ending, you need to understand who was paying. Suning were a Nanjing retail giant. Think of electronics stores, appliances, one of the biggest companies in China. In 2015, they took over the local football club, Jiangsu Suning, and renamed it Jiangsu Suning. What happened next was, honestly, one of the maddest things I've ever seen in football at the time. In 2016, Chinese clubs went shopping, and Jiangsu were right at the front of the queue. They wanted Alex Teixeira, a Brazilian forward at Shakhtar Donetsk, 26 years old, right in his prime. And Liverpool wanted him too. Yes, Liverpool. But Jiangsu Suning outbid them, not matched them, outbid them for €50 million in 2016. In the same window, they took Ramires straight out of Chelsea, a Champions League winner, 30 years old, walk away from the Premier League to play in Nanjing. The following year, they hired Fabio Capello, the man who managed Real Madrid, Juventus, AC Milan, and England. Now he's in the Chinese Super League. In 2019, they went after Gareth Bale, an actual genuine attempt to take one of the best paid players on the planet out of Real Madrid, having reportedly agreed a deal that would have seen him earn £1 million per week. And here's the scale of what was behind all this. The same year they took over Jiangsu, Suning also bought 70% of Inter Milan for €270 million. That made the people funding Jiangsu also owned one of the biggest clubs in Italy. And you got to ask, what was all this for? Because Jiangsu were never gonna make any money. None of this club actually were. For me, the real story was back in 2015. The Chinese government made football a national priority. They were trying to become a football superpower. And you know, when the government says something priority, every big company in the country will get the same message. Get involved. For example, a company like Evergrande, they were a property developer. To build anything in China, you need land. And land needs government approval. So spending a stupid amount of money on football wasn't really a football investment. It was relationship investment. Suning were a little bit different. They were a retailer. So for them, it was all about the name. Get Suning on the winning team, and you will get the name on every big headline in the country. It's basically a very expensive advertising. But either way, none of this company was buying a football club. They were buying attention. And it wasn't just them. The whole league was doing it. The Chinese FA's own numbers, when they finally tried to stop it, said Chinese Super League clubs were spending about 10 times what K-League spent in Korea, and 3 times what the J-League spent in Japan, for a league that nobody outside China was watching at the time.
Football Association officially announced on Wednesday afternoon that the Chinese Super League season will start on July 25th, about 5 months after its scheduled start was delayed by the pandemic. The CF.
Now, 2020, the season didn't look like a season. Because of COVID, the entire Chinese Super League was played in a bubble. 2 host cities, Suzhou and Dalian. A shortened tournament format and almost no fans allowed in. The whole thing ran from late July to mid-November. Average attendance for the season, 1,500 people, for a top-flight league in a country of over a billion. The final was 2 legs, both in Suzhou, against Guangzhou Evergrande. 8-time champions, managed by Fabio Capello, the most dominant club in the history of Chinese football. The first leg finished 0-0. The second leg, 12th of November, and it's a proper game. First half injury time, Jiangsu win the ball. Teixeira gets sprinting at goal and Hijau takes him down. Referee points to the spot, checks the VAR, changes his mind, not a penalty. Free kick on the edge of the box. But Hijau, straight red card. Guangzhou down to 10. Eder steps up. The Brazilian-born Italian, ex-Inter, drills it, takes a deflection of Paulinho in the wall, and their keeper is stranded. 1-0. 2 minutes into the second half, Captain Wu Xi launches it forward. Their defender takes a heavy touch, and Teixeira, the man they outbid Liverpool for, takes one step and curls it into the corner. 2-0. Guangzhou pull one back through Wei Shihao header just after the hour. But that's about it. 10 men out of ideas and out of time. 2-1. Jiangsu are the champions of China for the first time in 62 years of existence. And this is the detail that gets me every time I look at it. That match, the title decider, the biggest night in the club's history, was watched in the stadium by 9,386 people. It was the best attended game of the entire Chinese season, in a stadium built for over 60,000 back home in Nanjing that they were not allowed to play in. So, they are champions. And then the winter happens. Suning was in trouble, serious trouble. The whole business was struggling. They had a collapsed television deal, and by early 2021, the money was drying up across the whole group. In February 2021, the Chinese FA brought in a rule that clubs had to drop corporate names. So Jiangsu Suning became simply Jiangsu FC. Now think about what that actually does. The whole reason a retail company owns a football club is so that their name is on it. On the shirt, on the badge, and in every headline. If you take the name off, you've taken away the only thing the owner was buying. 19th of February, Suning's chairman, Zhang Jindong, tells the group to shut down its non-retail businesses as far as possible. Football is non-retail business. Behind the scenes, they've been trying to sell the club for 6 months. The debts were reportedly around $90 million. 28th of February, the deadline to register for the new season. And instead of the squad list, this went out on the club's WeChat. Even though we are reluctant to part with the players who have won us the highest honors and fans who have shared solidarity with the club, we have to regretfully make an announcement. From today, Jiangsu Football Club ceases the operation of its teams. We will focus on retail business and close and cut down our businesses that are not connected to businesses. That's it. That's the end of a football club. The state news agency reported the club still owned its players' wages and their title-winning bonuses. These players won the league, the biggest thing that the club has done in the 62 years of existence, and they never got paid for it. Not just the title bonuses, their wages as well. How frustrating could that be? You win the Chinese Super League and your reward is the bill that nobody wants to pay. And the women's team as well, reigning national champions from 2019, gone in the same announcement. And then the academy, every kid in that youth setup. A lot of them have moved cities, left school, put their whole childhood to become a professional footballer at Jiangsu. Then boom, middle of February, no club, no notice. But what really got me that this is the same company that had 270 million euros to pay for Inter Milan, same owners, same money. So it wasn't that money ran out. It was someone that sat in the corporate office decided that the club in China was not worth saving. And the thing you have to understand is that Jiangsu were not unlucky. They were just the loudest example. In 2020 alone, 16 clubs across the top 3 tiers of Chinese football folded. Guangzhou City, Wuhan Yanqi, and Hebei all went before the 2023 season. Dalian Pro, the club once managed by Rafa Benitez, with Marek Hamsik and Solomon Rondon playing for them, dissolved in January 2024, unable to clear its historical debts. And then the biggest one of all, Guangzhou Evergrande, with 8 Chinese titles, 2 Asian Champions League trophies, managed by Marcelo Lippi and Fabio Capello. In January 2025, the Chinese FA left them off the list of the clubs admitted to professional leagues. Their own statement that the funds they raised were not enough to clear the heavy historical debt burden. So the 2 clubs who played in that 2020 final, the champions and the 8-time champions, are both gone. One folded 108 days after winning it. The other was thrown out of professional football 4 years later. And the hard truth is, clubs were already failing to pay wages in early 2020 before COVID happened. The league might look rigged, but it was already broken because these clubs were not selling football to the fans. They were selling visibility to one customer only, the government. And when you have only one customer, you are not a football club. Compare it to Japan or Korea. Chinese Football Association say their clubs were spending 10 times what Korea spent or 3 times what Japan did. But Japan and Korea still standing. They built the foundation and grew slowly, while China just skipped straight to the roof. And watching the whole thing collapsed. Here's what I want to say though, because it would be easy to finish on Chinese football died, but that's not actually true. This March, the Chinese season opened with the Super Cup. Shanghai Port against Beijing Guan. Played in Nanjing, the same city Jiangsu came from. 40,169 people turned up. More than 4 times the crowd that watched Jiangsu win the league. Without Oscar, without Hulk, without Capello, without any of the money. The billionaires left, but the fans didn't. And I reckon that's the actual lesson in all of this. You can buy a title like Jiangsu did, and it lasted 108 days. But what you can't buy is 40,000 people turning up on a Sunday because it's their club.